Peggy and Salz here at Mobile Growth Summit. Amazing show, some great speakers, and some faces you may have maybe not seen before because we're doing video, but certainly in many podcasts and interviews I've done with Matt Sadofsky, Senior Director of Growth, now at TIDAL.
Yes.
Welcome, great to have you. I mean, for me, it's important to dive into our favorite topic, which is AI, but tell me first a little bit about your new title at TIDAL.
Yes. So I am now overseeing kind of growth marketing at TIDAL, similar into my last role at Tilting Point, overseeing user acquisition and also thinking a lot through of the kind of marketing automation and machine learning approach we could take to user acquisition.
Now we have some of your, as I said, podcasts over at Mobile Growth Summit, lots of your material out there where you're talking about AI, but isn't it amazing, Matt? Everyone is talking about AI.
Yeah.
In the space of something like 3 months, everyone is currently using AI already. So we don't need to be told anything, it seems. But then when you ask them, they say, well, I'm doing AI to optimize my bidding. Is that AI?
It's a great question. And I think it's true. Like, I think it was just a buzzword, and everyone was like, "Oh, I can get a higher valuation if I throw AI on my company." Right? Like, I'm a dog walker, but I use AI to figure out the best route to walk. Right?
Oh, there you go.
You could,
one I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, you can label that on anything, but yeah, you know, just building out an algorithm for figuring out what the right bid is that considered an AI platform, or is that a AI feature that lives inside of a larger platform? And I think it's kind of hard to really differentiate what's a real AI company and what's a company that's built a SaaS tool with elements of AI to it. And I think it's an important distinction to have when you're figuring out, you know, as let's say a company that I want to partner with from a B2B standpoint, is this a company that's really innovating from an AI standpoint? And as a B2C publisher, you know, is this someone that's charging me a 10% managed commission to use their AI tool, but is it really something that I need to pay that much for?
What about the AI tools themselves? I mean, it seems to me that it has to be very customized to your company, so you do have to be building it. Maybe there are some parts you can use to start. So if we want to talk to an audience of people who really need to understand AI and want to get past just sort of the vanity AI, right? What would you suggest about a place to start?
So I think there's two different camps of companies. There's companies that have a lot of resources, and for them going out and just partnering with a company that already can build out these models and algorithms for you, it makes sense. Then there's the other companies that kind of have this build internal first mentality, and instead of going out and partnering with one of these 50 companies that say that they're doing AI-driven technologies, you know, hire a data scientist in-house and start to build out your own bespoke algorithms that you can then layer on top of a DSP or layer on top of a Facebook. Because at the end of the day, if you go with one of these larger companies, it is fairly cookie cutter, right? The data that's informing their algorithm is not just your data, but it's data from many companies.
Right.
And some people will say, well, that's good because more data into the algorithm will help it hone in. But on the flip side, it could also be misleading the optimization depending on what their baseline data set's from.
So I've done a lot of interviews in this space, and someone told me recently, we love AI, we believe in it, it's the future, but we don't need to do anything because Facebook does it so well. Now, I'm not going to get on Facebook, that's not the point here, but is it a valid position to take, considering the importance of AI, particularly for UA, to say, I don't really need to bother with this because the other platforms have such good tools?
I think it's a valid point, and I'm really curious over the next 2 years even, or maybe even less, what the media mix looks like and how we buy on that media, which is actually what my presentation tomorrow is on. But figuring out, you know, if Facebook is doing the heavy lifting, if Google is doing the heavy lifting, if Snapchat and all these DSPs are fully automated now, then what does the marketer need to do? What is that application of, you know, if there's no more bid adjustments and we don't need to use lifetime value projections to make bid adjustments like we've been doing in the past, then what is the value of building out a bespoke AI-based tool for mobile marketing? And I think that will come into play with kind of automating the media mix. So your Facebook campaigns and your Google campaigns, you might have one budget that you want to spread across the two of them, but what's the proper split of that budget?
Is that where AI would come in to help you make that
I think
decision?
you could start to use that to make an informed decision on, okay, well, if I move my budget on Facebook from $50,000 a month to $80,000 a month, my CPA went up by this much. But if I move from that to Google instead, the CPA went up less, and starting to use models to figure out how different changes in budgets affect your return on ad spend on different sources.
But that's interesting, Matt, because what I'm hearing is, yes, leave it to the platforms, but still have AI to figure out how you're going to spread it across the platform. So really, there's no escaping AI in a sense in 2019, is there?
No, because I think unless you get to the point where the platforms just become aggregated into one source, you're always going to need some sort of like babysitter to really manage what that media mix is across those different platforms. And you could have someone sit there and crunch numbers and test things, and that's probably it's still a cost-efficient model to put bodies at it. But if you're a company that's at the size of NBC, where you could just hire a bunch of bodies to throw at maximizing your media mix across your different disciplines, or you could build out a data science team which could build models to do that for you. I think at some point it becomes a cost saving to actually build that out from a data science standpoint.
Now you built your own AI platform, which was very impressive when I last spoke with you and was interviewing you. And what was it, maybe some of the component parts of that, or even thinking about the team? I mean, how many data scientists do we need? Not to turn in a light bulb, I was thinking, not to screw in a light bulb, but how many do you really need? We talk about having an army of data scientists and having good tech.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah, so when I was at Tilting Point, we initially built it from the viewpoint of, let's build an AI that sits on top of Facebook's API and automate the Facebook ads. And then we slowly built it out to other channels. And then it was slowly building out into this media mix model that was kind of going to be what this, I think, broader vision that I'm looking at was going to be. And for that, we really only needed one data scientist.
One.
And we had 7 UA managers, and they worked across dozens of apps. Okay. So instead of, I think a lot of companies think, oh, I need 2 or 3 UA people for every app. We flipped it and said we need 2 or 3 apps for every UA person. And that was feasible through having that one data scientist, which streamlined a lot of the bidding for us.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have someone in-house. You can be changing the algorithm. It can be learning with you. What about working with an algorithm? I've been talking to some people about, how are we going to actually work constructively with AI? Is it going to be sort of like it taps you on the shoulder and says, here's a pattern I'm seeing, what do you want to do about it? Or how would that work?
So there's 2 different schools of thoughts on this. I was actually speaking with someone earlier, and we were discussing how there's AI that gives you better information, and then you can take that information and make decisions off of it. But there's still that human error chance when it comes to, okay, well, if the human needs to decide which event that the machine learning model is saying is, let's say the model is predicting ad lifetime value, in-app purchase lifetime value, and number of sessions for that user and that user's life cycle, and you still need to decide which one of those events you want to optimize for, well, there's still a chance that you choose the wrong event to optimize for.
Right.
But I think there's newer iterations of kind of deep learning based machine learning that will actually give you the proper weighting of what those events are and how they actually impact what your ultimate KPI is, which is lifetime value or return on ad spend, and kind of continue to remove the human element in decision making. So I think it really depends if you want to be a company that fully embraces the Skynet approach of letting the machine run it all, or if you still want that human to come in and kind of make that judgment call from time to time.
Is there any answer for that for our audience, if they're in a certain genre or at a certain stage of their app, what kind of decision they should be making? Because everyone I'm talking to says either vanity, I am already doing AI, or they're saying we're testing, we're looking at it, this is going to be the year that we ramp up and do something about it. So is there any sort of companies that should be faster now with it than others? Others maybe have more time to consider it. What would you say?
I don't think anyone's gotten it right yet.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of companies up and coming that are pursuing it, and the innovation's really growing from the B2B side and SaaS side of the industry. But that then leads us back to the whole Madison Avenue agency days, right? Where everything goes through an agency and you don't have really an in-house marketing team. And now it's like, oh, well, you go through the SaaS platform, which is your out-of-home agency for machine learning based marketing and you don't have an in-house team. But I think if you're a company that has a data-driven mindset and you're willing to invest in marketing technology in-house for the future, it makes sense to start building that out in-house.
I'm going to ask you the question you probably hate, but people ask me this. It's sort of like, okay, so what kind of investment is this? You said, for example, you had one data person, so you can imagine what that would cost as a hire. Some tech. Can you just give some idea of what we're looking at to do something meaningful in UA and also deeper in the funnel, for that matter, with AI, so companies can understand, is this reaching too high for me? Or maybe they're overestimating it. Maybe it is within reach.
I think if you have one data scientist who knows how to build out these models, plus has the ability to build the implementations with these different companies' APIs and really automate much of that, and you have someone in-house that can understand user acquisition and kind of teach that data scientist, about these platforms and how they work, I think you can achieve probably 5x the scale that you'd be able to achieve with just people, if not more. So it's really a UA manager and a data scientist. So depending on the city, at most maybe you're looking at a $300,000 a year expense on people.
All right. Okay. What about making them part of the team? I've seen even some very interesting articles, how to bring the data scientist into the team, as if it's like, bringing a new animal from the zoo or something. They're speaking Klingon, I don't know. We have to bring them into the team in a different way. How is that done? I mean, is it so different? Is it so challenging? Are there special skills to make it happen?
That's definitely one of the more challenging parts. For me, the data scientist has always sat on the data team with dotted lines to myself, so I'm able to give my input on kind of what I'd like the tool to do and the approaches I'd like to take for optimizing. But ultimately, that day-to-day, figuring out, okay, well, what type of machine learning model are we going to use, and actually building it, that needs to live with somebody with a more technical background. So I don't think the expectation should be on a marketing person to be able to fluently speak to all the ins and outs of machine learning, because I think there's way too much that's an entire career path on top of marketing. So my recommendation would be, to allow that person to sit with your data folks. Don't steal them for the marketing team, but because I think they're going to need that support system. But definitely, if you're a marketer who wants to get more involved with this, there's plenty of resources online where you can do a little bit of education yourself and better prepare yourself for working with that data science partner. Is
it down to things like learning Python? Do we have to go that far now?
It's something that I haven't done yet, but I've honestly
done it, Matt?
I've been considering it. I have. I think that I think it depends on what level of a marketer you're at. If you're at that mid-manager level now, and you think that in the next 5 years you're going to be at more of a senior manager level, you won't be the type of person going in and doing stuff with Python at that stage. But if you're someone who's just starting to get into mid-management, and you're still doing stuff on more of a execution level, then yes, I think people who have those hard skills like Python, SQL, can even write algorithms, which wouldn't even be a bad idea, even if it's just light modeling, they'll be far more valuable on the market in a few years from now than someone who just has a generic background in marketing.
And you yourself, you have an amazing background in marketing. You've been a mobile hero, for being a UA expert, AI, obviously, all those areas. What's next for you, Matt, in your personal development? Maybe that will tell us more about how others should be thinking about developing themselves when they're in this industry.
Yeah, so I think I had a really great couple of experiences really diving into just user acquisition and starting to think about how can we apply these type of tools to user acquisition. But I've been kind of expanding that out a little bit, because I think that the UA field leads a lot of mobile marketing or just even marketing innovation, but that can be applied to other disciplines as well, like SEO, ASO, product marketing, CRM, a lot of other touch points. So in my role at TIDAL, I actually oversee a little bit more than just user acquisition, some product marketing stuff as well. And I'm actually now advising for a company called ClearBrain, which does AI-driven audience segmentation, which is pretty cool.
It's going to be the next area.
Yeah, I think it's taking one step further from the user acquisition approach right now of AI, which is, okay, well, I'm spending on Facebook Facebook is telling me that this is my my CPI. I know what my lifetime value is, so I can bid against that. If you take user segmentation, and you can pull in all your data from Facebook and all these other sources and be able to run a model which predicts, okay, well, people who came in from Facebook and then got an email on a Tuesday and after they got an email from a Tuesday, then got a push notification within the next 48 hours are 1.7 times more likely to convert to your subscription, then you could start to build out these full user life cycles that are driven by AI-driven insights.
And then you can just think about the effectiveness of spend.
Yes.
Because you're pulling a lot of the variables out completely. I can see it. So last question, what are you most excited about when you look at 2019? Or what should app marketers listening to us be more excited about?
That's an interesting question. In 2019, what am I most excited about? Consolidation. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation in the space. I think we have had tremendous growth in the last couple of years, but there are so many companies solving a little piece of the puzzle right now.
Yeah.
And there's so many different, marketing solutions, but at the end of the day, I think now my biggest concern as a mobile marketer is I need to have 10 different SDKs with 10 different data integrations, all telling me slightly different things, so they all have slightly different models that are, one might be a segmentation tool, one might be a CRM platform, one's attribution, one's marketing, one's fraud prevention. It becomes too cumbersome. So I think as we continue to move to an area where these tools can be streamlined into one home, and I know some companies are working on that now, I think it could be massive for the industry in just terms of efficiency.
Well, that is something I'm sure we're all going to be looking forward to in 2019. Hope it comes true. And Matt, I hope you come back again. Thanks so much for being here at Mobile Growth Summit. And thank you for tuning in.